Hello everyone. Today we are working on London Blues. London Blues, try to get the glare off of it. Block 5, which is block 5. All right, so according to our directions, we are going to start with our half square triangles. So we'll be using fabric, use 4 fabrics of fabric 4 and fabric 11, and they're cut at 3/4 inch, and we'll be sewing on both sides of the middle, cutting in half. Let me get mine out here. All right, I believe that is the correct one. It is. So we'll sew on both sides of the middle, 1/4 inch away from the middle line, and cut them apart and trim them down to 2.5 inches. So hang tight. You've seen me use the diagonal seam tape here. By the way, if you're ever wondering why I have my blue painter's tape there, that's when I'm trying to match up light colors. I can't see the corners on my white table. So if I slide it over to the blue tape, I can match up my seams just right. So my white table is good for most things, but not all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and chain piece these two using my diagonal seam tape. 2 seams, cut them in half, trim them down to 2.5. All right, I'm going to cut 2 units at a time. I'll just lay my ruler right down the middle. And it's going to trim up fine. Still haven't changed my blade. Why do we do that to ourselves? I keep thinking it's me and not my blade, that's why. I'm sitting down. Don't have the right angle on it. There we go. All right, I'm going to take it over, press them to the dark, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to trim them down to 2.5 inches. So I'm going to lay my diagonal line right here on the seam, making sure I have 2.5 inches all the way around. It's weird. I thought maybe I cut those too big because I'm trimming a lot. Oh well. We'll just move forward. Yeah, I don't recall trimming this much before. It is 2.5. I'm not wrong on that. All right. 2.5. Just like that. Perfect 2.5 inch square. I will go over to the taller cutting table and finish up. Okay, so I've got those all trimmed up, ready to go. Next on our list of things to do is to put these units together. So I will go ahead and lay those out. Oh, look at that. Yeah, the dark side goes in. Make sure you could see. Like that. I know you're wondering, how did I already have one made? I got one made and then noticed that my audio was not on. So this is the second time around. All right, so I'm going to put that unit together. And then the bottom row. I teach my beginner students to try to be always consistent. You'll make fewer mistakes that way. So you will see me always lay out my units or my whole blocks. And when I take it over to the sewing machine, I always turn the right over the left one. I pick it up and I don't do any turning around like so, you know. So this is the side I'm going to sew. So that's the side I take to the sewing machine under my needle. Because it would be discouraging to turn it around and have it backwards or something. So I do right over left. That side goes to the needle and I place it there. So I do it that way consistently. And I have fewer mistakes. I actually learned that from a lady that taught me how to long arm. And she was a retired nurse. And everything she did was consistent. The way she did things, she always did it consistently. She was a really good teacher. All right, it's time to get the cutting gizmo over here. I got lots of things here to cut. Love my cutting gizmo. See how much faster than scissors that is. All right, I'm going to take it over to the iron. I'm going to press to the whole square, not the half square. Okay, got my batteries charged up. And we'll lay this out. So, goes like, oh, see, I did it wrong. Didn't I? Oh, I did it like this. Okay. I didn't do it wrong. Never mind. Okay, like so. Everybody's laying out the right way, just like so. Okay, go ahead and sew these together. Right over left. Match up my center seams right there. Ease in if I have to, not too badly though. Line them all up as I go. Oh, shoot. Can't believe what I'm doing. I sewed two of them together. I have to rip that out. It won't take me long. Ever done that? Boy, it was a really thick seam and I was wondering why it was going so heavy. Silly me. I use my seam ripper every single day. That means you have to replace your seam ripper because they get dull. All right, let's try that again. Lay that back down there, this back down there, and that back down, and right over left, and just pick up one of them. All right, we'll get my leader in there. I thought it seemed awfully thick. Much better. Any of you that know me have seen my human side many, many times. I get a kick out of my beginner students. They think that the The seam ripper is a tool they should never have to use. I have been sewing for over 50 years now. I don't think a day's gone by that I haven't used my seam ripper. I'm not afraid of it. It's my friend. All right. Okay, I'm going to press these in such a way that, let's see, can I do a close-up? Let's see. Oh, that's a real close-up. Press these in such a way that I'll press this side that way, this side this way, and I'll get that nice little four-patch right in the middle. Eliminate some of the bulk. Press and be right back. And just like that, they're pressed and all done. Look, you could make a bear paw block out of that. Pretty cool, huh? I think that's what a bear paw. Nope, that's not a bear paw. That's a star. Something like that. Okay. All right, so we got enough of those made. The next unit we're going to make is going to be the square and a square. And for that, we're going to use the 3/8 inch of fabric 6. And I know he's in here somewhere. There he is. And our 3 1/4 inch squares of fabric 1. Now when I cut most of my fabrics ahead of time, and that's one of the nice things. When you buy your kits from me, I give you a cutting chart, like so. And this cutting chart says, okay, on page 5, you're gonna cut 3 1/4 inch square, and on page 6, you're gonna do the same thing, and on page 7 and 8. So, and that way, as long as you're cutting a 3 1/4 inch strip, you might as well go cut all of them for page 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? So when you buy your kits from me, you get that, which takes me several hours and testing to do. So you get that from me for free. All right, so I'm going to cut these in half. And what I was going to say is I don't cut these in half until I'm ready to use them, because when you cut in half, you are cutting on the bias, and the bias does tend to stretch when we don't want it to. So we're gonna sew this side and then this side, and then this side and this side. Then we'll trim them down to perfect, and we will have a perfect square and a square. So these are cut oversized. And the first thing you have to do is sew them on opposite sides. I just eyeball them. I don't get carried away with finding the middle and making sure it's perfect, because it is going to be perfect by the time I trim it down. So I sew this side. I keep my 1/4 inch seam, and I try to keep it nice and straight so that my square in the square looks square when it's all framed in. Do that to the other side. And I'll give them a quick press. I like to press bias with my thumbnail first. It just keeps that line straight instead of smiling. When you're on the bias, you have to be very careful that you don't press and get that smile. Hate when that happens. All right, so now I'm going to sew these two sides together. We will be using Deb Tucker's Studio 180 square and a square ruler. She likes us to call it a tool. So we'll be using the square squared tool. Studio 180 has them in 2 sizes, so that if you're making like a 12-inch square and a square, she has a much bigger set of rulers for that. But this one will do, I believe it's like 1 to 6 inches. And ours is going to be 4 inches finished, 4.5 unfinished. Okay. All right, so I'm going to trim this down with my square and a square ruler. All right, so if we started at the beginning with the square and a square, we would have found our 4-inch finished block measurements here, and we would have cut our center square to this size, which just happens to be the size that Wing and a Prayer gave us. So we just cut it that way. And now we're going to trim it up. So I'm going to lay my ruler, try to show you what we're doing here. I'm going to lay my ruler so that this 4-inch, 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 and 4-inch over here is going to lay right in the corners of my square and a square. So I lay my 4-inch X right there. I sewed it to the wrong. The wrong square. I cut this square wrong. Anyway, I will fake it, because when I didn't have audio, I made one. So there you go. So this one fit perfect. All right. So there's my 4-inch X's right there. I trimmed up here, turned it around, trimmed it up again, laid my 4.5, 4.5, my X's in the middle, and trimmed it. And now I have a perfect square and a square. This one is getting tossed. All right, we're on a roll, right? Okay. Next thing we're going to do is our quarter square, quarter triangle units. Okay, so we have 4 triangles, so quarter triangles. And we will be using fabrics 2 and 6 and 6 and 11. So this is fabric 6. This is fabric 2, so I'll pair those 2, and I'll pair, and that is 6. So we will be, first of all, sewing half square triangle units on these, and then we will not trim them down. We'll just keep on sewing. Now, because these are a little bit bigger than the end of my diagonal seam tape, I am going to draw my lines on there. So I'll use Quilter's Magic Wand, which is got an etched line right down the center, and it's a 1/4 inch away from each side. So I will use that and my handy dandy 9mm chalk pencil from Bowen. It's a nice fine white line. I draw both lines. It shows up pretty good. And one more time. I laid the etched line of the ruler right in the corner and down here. And I draw on both sides, which is my exact 1/4 inch seam. All right, I'll pair this one and I'll pair this one and I'll go ahead and get those sewed. I'm sewing right on the line. Turn it around. Whoopsies. I got on the wrong spot. That is weird. Ah, there it is, right there. I can see it now. Okay. Line was a little bit light on that corner. Couldn't see it that well. Okay. I'll cut those in half, and then I'll trim them, press them, and then we'll make 1/4 triangle units out of it. So I'll cut it right between the 2 seams that I sewed. Let's see, does it tell me which way to press? It does not. So as long as I press them all the same way, and since they all have fabric 6 on them, I guess I'll just press to fabric 6. That will make sense. And then when I go to sew the quarter units on, they will look good. All right. Okay, I'm back. So here's the next step to this. So we take one of these units and one of these units. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. And we're going to lay this side opposite this side. All right. We're going to snug those 2 seams up and try to square it up as well. I can pretty much feel. So right there. And so that's what our 1/4 inch unit's going to look, or our 1/4 square unit's going to look like. But it's important to have these seams right there nesting. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my sewing lines again on one of these. I'll go a little bit darker this time so I can see it. Get my thumb in there. And this one. I really do like these pens. Whoops, I moved it a little bit. Nice, fine, thin line. I can sew right on it and don't have to worry about, do I sew in the middle of the mark or to the side or what? I can sew right on it. It's about the same width as my thread. Okay. I'm going to make sure that these are nested in there and lined up pretty good. I like to fold it back and make sure that it's just perfect right there before I get going. And I hold it when I get it over here. Now if I have a little bit of extra, if they don't match perfect, it's okay. We're going to trim them down to perfect again. I love being able to trim down to perfect. And I'll get these together. It never hurts to check and make sure that you have the 2 fabrics opposite sides. Looks good. And I'll turn them around and sew down the other side. Ah. All right. Next step, we'll cut them in half. Right down that away. So I lay my ruler. Actually, I think I'll turn it on the lighter side. And I'm going to lay my ruler right on, I'm not perfectly in the corner, so I'm going to lay my 1/4 inch seam line on the ruler to the seam that I sewed. And we'll bring it back and we'll press. All right. So cut it right here. Okay. Looks pretty good, huh? So I will press these the same way as well. I'll split that open and have a 4-patch right in the middle. So I'll be right back. Okay, so for trimming up these, I'm gonna make sure my audio's still on. For trimming up 1/4 square triangle units, I absolutely love using the Tucker trimmer. So how to use this is, perhaps I can even zoom in better. Ooh, that's a little too much. I'll go like so. Okay, so for using the Tucker trimmer, we're going to trim to 4.5, which is this line right here. And what's nice about that is I have to find the middle of my 4.5 inch unit. So this is the line that goes down one seam. 4.5 is the line that goes down the other seam. So obviously that is the middle. If I were using a square up ruler, such as this ruler, which I love, I would have to find on this ruler the middle of 4.5. Well, half of 4.5 is 2 1/4. So if I follow this down, there's my middle right there. It's not marked. It's hard to see. It is right there. Not marked. So it's right there. 2 1/4. So that is really hard to place. So if I am placing my Tucker trimmer, I lay this line down, this seam. My 4 1/4 inch should meet right there in the middle, or my 4.5 inch line. Wow, she really has us cut these way bigger than needed. Okay, so there's my middle point right there. Oh, you can't see it. One moment. Okay, now you can see it. Sorry about that glare there. I don't know how to get rid of it. Anyway, oh, that's the light. Let me see, maybe I can. Got a little darker, but at least you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to trim this right side and the top. If you were left-handed, you would be trimming up the left side and the top. Okay, I'll turn it around, and now I can line up my 4.5 inch here and here, and my middle, and my seams. So I've got lots of places to make sure it's correct. Just like that, a perfect 1/4 triangle unit. I'll go over to the other table and press more, or cut them down, and I'll be right. Okay, I've got all my units made. All we have to do now is put them together. So I'll zoom out again and we will look at our picture. Okay, so the square and the square goes in the middle. Let's see, how about if I turn my light back on? There we go. Square and a square goes in the middle. These go with the two same fabrics going to the sides and the dark fabrics going in. And then we have these units. The dark side going in again, the dark square going in. Like so, like so, and like so. All right, pretty cool block. I like it. So again, I'll be doing right over left, right over left, right over left, and just sending them through the sewing machine. This is where I kind of get a little bit particular. I like them to match exactly. If I have to ease in, I do. So this seam is going this way, so I use my handy dandy. Can you see what I'm doing? I should check. Yes, you can. So I use my handy dandy stiletto to make sure that goes under the needle correctly. All right, perfect. And that ends up pretty good. All right. And for the most part, which way do we want to press? I'm going to say pressing toward the outside there maybe, and towards the inside on the top and bottom rows. All right, that's how I'm going to do it. You can press open if you like, or to the other side if you like. At this point, there's bulk either way, so do however your fabric wants to fall. Got to do a little bit of easing in on this one. I must have sewn a seam a little bit narrow. It's okay, I can do it with my stiletto. It'll be just fine. All right, I'll take these over to the iron, press them, and then sew the rows together, and then we'll be done. Easy as that. Okay, I laid them out again. This time I'm going to be careful to match these seams, which are folded in opposite directions, so they should nest very nicely. Perfect nesting. Get my stiletto in there. Gotta get that just right. Okay, lay it out again. Turn it over like that. Sew these together. We're almost done. This one's sneaky. It's got a seam going that way, so I have to make sure that I have it going the correct direction when I get to it. All right, so I take my stiletto, make sure it's pressed in the right direction, hold it down here where it meets. This one meets fine. And make sure that one under there is turned in the right direction, and it is. And then finish it up. All right, I'll take them over to my ironing board, and I'm going to press these two open. All right, there is the finished block. I did have a little trouble pressing it open. I'm going to take it over to my bigger iron and do a little bit better pressing. I have a nice steam generator that will flatten them pretty good. So I did press them to one side, but I might change that still. So there is block 5. Thanks for watching.